Hi, I'm Steve Clemons with the Washington Note. I'm here with the publisher of the Palestine Note. We're here interviewing the new executive director of J Street, Jeremy Ben-Ami. Jeremy, it's great to be with you.
Thanks a lot, Steve.
Fadi Elsalameen. We're here just to kind of chat a little bit about this achievement. You just had a fantastic, huge conference here in Washington. I got a count of about 1,600 people. I don't know what the real numbers were, but it was, to me, looked like a stunning success. Mostly because at one reception, I saw a handful of senators and congresspeople, Republicans and Democrats there. Have you sort of gotten over the hump of breaking into, what was a fairly dominated and somewhat crowded marketplace of being focused on American Jewish interests and Israel interests?
I mean, I think it's too early to declare success. I think we're making progress. The hill is steep, and I think that we've probably picked off a lot of the early and easy fruit, but I think we've got the momentum now, and I think the stature and acceptance to take the next step. But it's still a climb, and I think it's still a way to go to really fully be a counterweight to the forces of the status quo.
What are the zingers that you think define J Street and differentiate it in this marketplace of Israel's interests?
Well, I think number one, we're really representing a voice of a progressive Jewish community that hasn't had a political voice. I think the town here in Washington is really used to hearing from the right of the Jewish community, which is a part of the community.
Right.
But this notion that there's a diversity of views and that actually progressive Jews are a majority of American Jews just hasn't been heard in Washington. So I think that's sort of number one. The second thing that I think we're introducing is the notion of the American interest. That as American Jews, we actually recognize that it's a U.S. strategic interest to solve this conflict, and that regional comprehensive peace is an enormous American strategic interest, and we can't allow some of the political issues that have stood in the way to be an obstacle to America playing a role in getting there.
If you're pro-Israel, which I know J Street has to be, does that mean you've got to be anti-Palestine? Does it all, do you have to think about zero-sum relationships? We're here with the Palestine Note, Fadi Elsalameen. How do the Palestinians fit into this equation?
Well, I think that's absolutely critical, is to redefine this concept of pro-Israel. I think that for too long a pro has had to have an anti, and that's 20th century thinking, it's neocon thinking, it's an old way of looking at things, and we really need to think how we're going to solve this going forward. And the most important thing for Israel's future, because it's not that we have to be pro-Israel, it's that we are pro-Israel. I come from a community that likes Israel, and we want a Jewish home there. But the only way we're going to have it, and the only way it's going to be one that we can live with as a democracy and true to our values, is if there's a home for Palestinians too. So we're pro the creation of a Palestinian state. We're both pro-Palestine and pro-Israel, and we actually think to be pro-Israel, you have to be pro-Palestine, because there won't be an Israel without a Palestine. So we're trying to break that whole thinking.
How have you seen Israeli leadership and Palestinian leadership in terms of perceiving J Street? Are they cooperative? Are they? The reason I'm asking this is that I think 2 days ago I was reading a piece by the editor of Israel-Palestine Envoy.
Yeah.
And to me that seemed a very strong opinion from the second most popular newspaper in Israel. How does that make your work easy? How does it define your work in Washington?
Well, I think it would be wrong to deny that there's a huge fight within the Jewish community, both in Israel and in the United States, about what is the best direction to go for the future of the Jewish people and the future of Israel. I mean, this is a real strong disagreement, and there are those on the right who want to hang on to the land and who believe that this is a fight to the end. And they will view anybody like us who believes compromise and peaceful negotiation is the only way forward as traitors and as people that are really putting the future at risk. So this is a pretty high stakes fight. So I don't expect that we're not going to have that kind of opposition. I think we wouldn't be effective if our opponents weren't really attacking us and taking us seriously. So this is a real fight. This is a real disagreement, and folks on the right don't like what we have to say, but we're an important part of this American Jewish community, perhaps even a majority of the American Jewish community. It's time for our voice to be heard.
just again, in Israel, where do you see your biggest base? Is it in the Labour, in the Likud, is it in Kadima, is it a combination of both? Just to kind of get a feel of where J Street is.
Well, I think the most interesting thing is to look at the most recent election and see what happened with Tzipi Livni. You know, she was the leader of the centrist party. She's a daughter of a very far right-wing leader. She comes out of the Likud, she comes out of the right wing. She has come to realize that a two-state solution is an existential need for Israel. This isn't left-wing ideology for her. This is realism. This is recognizing how are we going to have another 61 years of a country. So I think where we're closest to is this broad spectrum of agreement in Israel that the two-state solution is a necessity. It's a minority of Israelis who stand in the way and say it shouldn't happen. The question mark in the middle is, can it happen? What is it going to take in order to make it happen? So I think we've got a very large base of Israelis who would agree with us, but a large number of them are doubtful, they don't have hope, they're cynical, questioning, and that's really the main enemy right now.
Let me ask you a question from an American national interest perspective. During the Bush administration, George W. Bush administration, there were two areas of the world that I thought under his tenure were really pushing out the boundaries of changing what had been the equilibrium before. One was Israel, and the other was Taiwan. And in Taiwan's case, George W. Bush sent a note: we will not support you in independence. We will not, you know, that he just changed the game, and instructions were sent to the Taiwanese to stop. To my knowledge, no similar instructions were sent to Israel. And I worry that a belief that many Israelis have that their relationship with the United States is absolutely unconditional, that there are no terms that we have for changing the game. And we've just seen a settlement in Broglio. Maybe we shouldn't have started with settlements, but nonetheless, when it came down to it, the United States backed off, and I think it reinforces this notion that Israel can do just about anything and not affect the U.S. relationship. Is that your sense? It's not my sense, but I'm beginning to doubt my confidence in that, given what just happened. But it's important for people to understand that the relationship has responsibilities on both sides for mature and sensible long-term thinking. And I'm just wondering if you see that happening, because I'm concerned that it isn't.
Well, I'm also concerned that there hasn't been an adequate picture put on the table by this administration of where it's trying to go. And I think you need both the stick and the carrot in a way to make the Israelis truly change direction and to have them have that incentive package right. I don't think it's enough to just beat them up over settlements or to use a stick, you know, which people are urging. I think by putting a positive plan on the table and saying, here's how we actually bridge the differences, here's how we get to a regional comprehensive peace, I think then you will have more likely impact on Israeli behavior, not simply by trying to enforce it or by imposing any sort of a quid pro quo for aid or anything like that. I'm afraid what's been missing out of our approach in the past year now under this administration has been a clear sense of where we're headed and how we're going to get there. And I think if you combine that with some of the tougher rhetoric, I think you'll have a much better chance of success.
Where are you guys on Iran?
We are still hopeful that this tack that the administration has been on is going to lead somewhere, but time is running out, and I think that the administration probably has it about right, that there's a good offer on the table, they can't sit around forever, they can't be played, and at some point, if Iran says no, there has to be consequences. We are in favor of multilateral approach. We're not in favor of unilateral American action. We're certainly opposed to military action, but there needs to be a further consequence if there isn't going to be any positive movement.
Just one other question about George Mitchell. How do you think he has been doing so far? What kind of pointers would you offer to someone like this who has had a very successful career up until this point?
Well, his theory of change is, you know, very much a quiet, back and forth, behind the scenes, go slow, try to move the process along like this approach. You know, he would not have expected, I don't think, to have success in 10 months. So back in January when he was appointed, he probably would have said, don't expect success by November. And he would have been right. But, you know, I personally think that we need to go a little bit bolder, a little bit stronger. I think we've got to lay out that vision of where we're headed rather than just the process in and of itself and going back and forth and trying to make a little bit of progress one way and the other. I don't think that's quite going to cut it in the long run.
I think you're going way too easy on it. Right? My line is, you know, this is not Northern Ireland. This is a fault line on the edge of global stability. spend a century or two or three on Northern Ireland. We can't afford that to do.
Right. No, this is a matter of the utmost urgency.